Gonna get to this little guy later. It's a poop emoji. Sorry. It's just funny.
Is this your way of telling people you're going to use the restroom later?
No. I mean, it has to do with who played poorly in the NBA playoffs yesterday. And the Bucks are one of the teams who played like poop. We're going to start with the Bucks and the Raptors. I actually want to get to immediately Kyle Lowry being classy, which he always has been. I've never criticized Kyle Lowry's character, just his inconsistencies. But the Raptors played pretty much to what the fans wanted them to do. Score 111, or what was the final score? 117, 111. Norman Powell had a hell of a game, and that's what this press conference has to do with. So let's roll AO1, because the media didn't want to talk to Norman Powell, and Kyle Lowry made sure that they did.
Norm's here. He was just, ask him a question.
Steve Brotherson, Pro B-Ball Report. Norm.
He starts clapping for him. Which is awesome. 118-93 was the final score. 118-93 was the final score in a game where the Bucks shot 50%. But the Raptors could not miss. They shot 57.7% from the field. Norman Powell, 25 points. Everybody in double figures, share the wealth. I just don't understand how Dwayne Casey can throw together a perfect game like this, and he also had a perfect game too, and then have like he's like a bipolar coach. I mean, not like his actual mental being. I mean, his coaching style is he'll put together perfect game plans, but when he doesn't put together a perfect game plan, like game 3, they get run off the floor. So I think we're looking at 7 games, but I do want to highlight the point that the Raptors do have a grand opportunity to close this out in 6, and I think that they could.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, in all honestness, I didn't catch the full game. I saw some of it. I was too busy just admiring the spectacle that was the Golden State Warriors' first
quarter,
4 minutes, and then that just carried over to be the rest of the game, which was just mind-blowing at times. But I did switch back over and was able to catch some highlights from the Raptors game. What I noticed early, and it kind of echoed the sentiment that was going through TNT Studios, they bodied up Giannis early, and they tried to offset his rhythm, which, as you mentioned before, they did in previous games, and it kind of allowed the Raptors to find more space. Powell was just slamming it down with authority whilst also being consistently shooting well, but it looked like he was out there to prove a point. And I'm curious because, I mean, I know of him. I know he's a talented player, but was there a point he was out there to prove? Because it looked like he was a man playing on a mission that just wanted to show people he's a real deal.
They played small, and it worked to their. It really worked to their advantage. They played small and they played fast, and they pushed the tempo, and that's what, you know. First of all, it makes for very fun basketball to watch, and especially if you play small, fast, and you're on. Do you know who's done that better than anybody else in the league? That'd be the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. So it's almost like a page out of their book. Now, I mentioned before yesterday, and I said like the number 1 stat to always look at is plus minus. How much better is your team, especially in the playoffs when you're on the court? So you can be blown away all you want by Giannis's 12 of 19 shooting with 30 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, and only 2 turnovers. He fouled 5 guys and was -24. He had the worst plus minus of anybody on his team. He did play almost the entire game with 41 minutes, but Malcolm Brogdon, the rookie, had a similar shooting percentage and only -8. So again, look at the plus minus. How much better is your team when you're on the court compared to when you're off the court? Yeah. Everybody on the Raptors was plus a jillion. DeRozan, again, it's the same thing I've always said with this team. Look at the box score. The numbers are healthy for Lowry and DeRozan. They probably won.
Yeah.
And in this case, the numbers were healthy and they probably won. They also ran, I think, 8 guys deep, with some guys only getting like 2 or 3 minutes, but still, like Corey Joseph played 20 minutes, Valanciunas played 21 minutes. Again, share the wealth.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen in Game 6. I don't know if they're going to go into Milwaukee and Dwayne Casey's going to run up the game plan he ran in Game 1 or 3, and they're going to get run off the floor and lose by 20. Or I don't know if they're going to slam the door shut. I did want to mention one last thing about the Bucks. I think they were being a little bit arrogant around Game 4. I thought the Barney song was funny. I think that you could leave it at that. You want to do a little troll? Sure, I'm okay with that, in my opinion. But the kicking of the Raptor mascot and the constant reminder and it just felt like arrogance for a team that, you know, don't forget, you're not supposed to win this series. So prove your point with the final score. That's what I mean. Who's
going to win a fight out of a Buck and a Raptor anyway?
A Raptor would.
No doubt.
Yeah, but we might get, and there's a 2-2 series between the Hawks and the Wizards. Again, it's my favorite all-time argument. Raptors versus Wizards.
Again, then you have to break it down by category. Which Wizard are we talking about here?
I know, and we'll get into it next round. If it happens,
then we're going to break down all the Wizards versus all the types of Raptors.
That's like the way you'll get me on Team Raptor. I think everyone's underestimating the power of dinosaurs. Okay, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs.
Spells still work on dinosaurs, mate.
You don't know that, though. They could have...
They work on mice and other animals.
Leave it. I can tell you Raptors versus Hawks. It's probably
That's a good one.
It's a win for the Raptors.
Interesting.
Well, Hawks can fly.
Yeah.
Moving on, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, regardless how they play, always underappreciated.
The way they started that game, there was never a moment that any of the players on that team felt like they had to second guess their decision. Even when they didn't have, even when players had the shot clock was running down 5-6 seconds or whatever it was. Like there was a moment when Steph Curry was guarded by 2 players, and in a swift pass behind his back, without even looking, over his shoulder, throws it back the way, and it's a catch and shoot from Klay Thompson that goes in. Klay Thompson, you can just tell when that guy's going to get hot. He hasn't been shooting well through the series up to this point, but early on, he kind of made his statement that he was there to kind of improve upon this and prove that he can consistently go off whenever really he wants. Draymond Green was phenomenal. Kevin Durant set the standard early with a 3 that was, again, it's so in tune with what we expect from Kevin Durant. But it was just the way that no one on that team ever really looked like they were panicking, and the ball never stopped. I think the only person I've seen take a moment and really try to weigh up a play was Steph Curry, right? Because of course he's a point guard. When he gets it, sometimes
slow it down.
He slows it down a little bit, but that was very rare. They had Portland gassed from the moment they started. Like Portland, you could tell their players were trying to breathe because they couldn't. Every time they went back on the opposite end of the court, Draymond Green was swatting people. Zaza Pachulia was dominating in the paint and winning. Zaza Pachulia was getting some rebounds, and then before Portland could even try to recover, they were immediately on the back foot, hit by a fast tempo offense. I think it's going to take one hell of a team to try and stop this Warriors when they're on 4.
Yeah, absolutely. They tweeted, "We're on the board." I think it was 23-3.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
we're there. We made it. Damian Lillard. Always class. Again, this is a clip about class. Kyle Lowry, class. Damian Lillard, class. I know we talk about backcourt a lot. People actually mention that in the comments, why do you talk about backcourt players so much? It's because it's the one thing I can relate to in the NBA. I play in the backcourt. That was my only thing I could play in because I was not 7 feet tall. So I understand the fundamentals of being a point guard more than I understand being the fundamentals of being a center. However, Lillard's press conference made some great points about the Warriors and kind of the little mention about the Michael Jordan against the Pistons and stuff like that. So there's a 30 seconds from Damian Lillard right here.
You never want to get out the West, you're going to have to go through them. And for me, I understand that that's what it is. And, you know, it's always been that way in the NBA. I think about, you know, when the Pistons was just beating up on Jordan. And he was just kicking his butt every year. And he had to get through them if he wanted to get to where he wanted to get to. And, that's just what it is. They're going to be there. They're going to be there every year. And we have to look at that and understand that we got to be better. We got to go get better and come back better as a group if we want to move faster.
Look at the optimism. This is a guy who just got swept in the playoffs. You've lost in a series 8-1 to the Warriors combined over 2 years. Made it a very interesting series last year. This time around, it wasn't as interesting, although Game 1 was fun when both him and McCollum were going off for a combined, whatever it was, 80 points. I want the Blazers to get better. I want the Blazers to be a team in the Michael Jordan vein to get past the Pistons. The only problem with that is Michael Jordan never got past the Pistons. Yeah. They beat him up for 3 straight years, and then they fizzled out. And then Jordan got past the Pistons. And I think a lot of teams in the West are going to be falling victim to this. We know this year, granted, there's going to be some interesting series in the 2nd and 3rd round, don't get me wrong, for the Warriors to be tested. But when you look at the playoffs bracket, this shouldn't surprise too many people because the Cavs and the Warriors swept their series, regardless how competitive it was at points or it wasn't. It was 4-0. Well, everybody else has to play at least 6.
Yeah.
I think the Rockets and the Thunder, Rockets could close out tonight. We have the playoffs bracket. Can we actually get to throw to that one so everyone's on the same page? I take that back, yeah. So the only other series that isn't going at least 6 games is the Rockets and the Thunder, and that's if the Thunder close out tonight. I'm not going to count out, I'm sorry, the Rockets close out tonight. Jesus.
Yeah.
So take care of your business and you get a week off That's going to be a very rested Warriors team against, I would think, a Clippers in 7, and a very rested Cavs team against, I would think, a Raptors in 6, 7, or Bucks in 7. So
especially in the Warriors, they'll be so happy about this and the way things have moved over, because last year fatigue did catch up on them. They were chasing a record last year. They never really rested their players towards the end. I think LeBron James played a combined 3 minutes in the last 15 games of the regular season. That's very over-exaggerated, but you know what I mean. LeBron James
not that far off.
Doesn't, I would say, exert himself as much physically when it comes to the end of the season, and then you see him play, what, 44 points was it in the playoffs? Because this is 44
points.
Minutes in the playoffs, because this is his time.
44 kilometers.
He's preserving his energy to go out full force when it comes to the playoffs. So the Warriors, they were able to rest the majority of their starters throughout this game as well, because they were able to pull away so early, allow for players to come in. And by the way, this is without Barnes. This is without Livingston. They had a lot of like depth players out in that game as well, and they were still able to utilize the bench so well, and the standard never really dropped. Like the Portland Trailblazers couldn't really cut into like a 20. I think the lowest they got it was like 18 or 20 points. That must be exhausting for them. And to go back to what you said about Damian Lillard, this is a guy who he's went through a kind of wayward journey to get to where he is in the NBA. He never went through the traditional method of being like drafted and
went
brought
to
in.
Weber State.
He went, and he played I think a little bit of D-League before he was able to get in. I think he really appreciates the environment that he's been given to thrive, and I think he really appreciates the game. And I respect the hell out of him for that, because I think that he wants to give back to the team that's given him a lot.
Yes.
And it is hard to watch a team that everyone, I mean, if you don't root for the Trailblazers, like, I get it if you're some sort of there's no real rivalry there against them. They're just a good team to root for.
Yes, they are.
And when they had LaMarcus Aldridge and Damian Lillard, they looked really good. And I was thinking it could be a team pushing up the table and really competing. But then obviously things went a little different. So Damian Lillard's still optimistic. I think that's a great thing. This guy is humble beyond belief. He doesn't bat an eyelid that he's constantly disregarded because he's in amidst a pool of point guards who are all phenomenal in their own way. But he's a quality player.
A lot of unintentional shade throughout the Wizards and the Hawks, but that's a 2-2 series, and that's going to be interesting, and I think that goes 7. I'm pulling for the Wizards solely for the argument of Wizards versus Raptors, and also to see Marcin Gortat go head-to-head with, it would be Wizards versus Raptors. Oh, like Serge Ibaka. Ooh, or Voda Valanciunas. Physical basketball underneath. I think Valanciunas and Gortat would fight each other.